Hey everyone. Okay, so we're back. This time with the guest. Um, now, this is a movie that I initially wasn't going to go and see, but when I was last at the cinema going to see Sin City 2, I got the trailer for it again, and the more I thought about it, and when I seen it was going to be R-rated, I thought this might be worth going to see. And long story short, it was more than worth going to see. I loved this movie. Give this movie the Oscar for Best Picture because it really, really deserves it. Yeah, I mean, basically, from the trailer is not misleading at all. You can tell where this movie's going, like, you can tell that what the twist's gonna be. But you don't mind when you watch this movie that you know what's gonna happen. You just go with it because it's so well done. And it's interesting because, yeah, you know the way this movie's gonna go when you see the trailer, but at the same time, you don't know what this movie is because I was so surprised. I had no idea that this movie was going to be such a throwback movie. This movie it's so 80s, it's unbelievable. I mean, we talk about the two Ryan Gosling and Nick Refn movies, Drive and Only God Forgives. Very stylish, very 80s movies, 80s throwback movies. This one, The Guest, is right up there with them. It seriously, seriously is. And honestly, if you're someone who loves 80s movies and is looking for a good 80s throwback movie, this is a pretty safe bet for you. Yeah, so that's a long story short. I love this movie, and I think it is definitely Oscar worthy. So let's get right into it. I mean, yeah, the plot of the movie is pretty much well conveyed in the trailer. We're introduced to this family who's recently lost, who have recently lost their eldest son in the military. Then they get a visitor, the guest, who says that he was in the military with their son and they were close friends, and he himself has just recently been discharged due to suffering a wound, or suffering injuries rather, and they invite him to stay with them for a while. Because, and we get that line from the trailer, I promised your son before he died that I would look in on you after I'd left. So he does just that, and they invite him to stay with them. And that's all well and good. Like I say, this guy calls himself David. He's very likable, and he's very much like Ryan Gosling's character in Drive. He's quite quiet, but you quickly learn that you don't mess with this guy. Yeah. So he's likable. I'd say he's a bit. Well, he is kind of a silent character in a way, but he is more talkative and outgoing than what Ryan Gosling's character was, and he's very charming, but we quickly find that there is something not quite right about this guy. We quickly find that he has something of a dark side, again, with that idea of you don't want to mess with this guy. And of course, him being former military, we know he can handle himself. He will kill you. He could kill you if he had to, or if you made him. If you pushed him so far. And yeah, he quickly hits it off with the members of his family. He gets on well with them, because of course there is the mother, the father, and then there are obviously originally three children. Obviously, the eldest has died now, so we're left with the younger brother and the younger sister. And so that's our family now. You've got them four, and plus David. So yeah, he lives. He decides he's going to live with them for a couple of days, until he decides what he's going to do, where he's going to go next. And he's doing getting on really well with them. He's helping out with things. He goes and picks the younger brother up from school, and he finds out that he's being bullied. Because they touch on that, because he's kind of like that kind of guy. That he's the quiet type. He keeps himself to himself, but yet you can tell he's the kind of kid that would be targeted by the jock type bullies, and that's exactly what happens, shoving him into lockers, and he comes home with this bruise on his face. That's what happens the first day, because obviously he gets in from school, and obviously David's there, and they get talking, and immediately David notices this bruise on his face, and he knows something's up. So the following day he goes and picks him up from school, and while he's picking him up, he says, I want you to show me the guys who did it. And anyway, we get that scene in the trailer, and he goes and sorts them all out at this bar. And then, so from there, the younger brother is immediately, he idolises David. So, he's got a great liking for him. He's there, he thinks he's this great guy. The sister, on the other hand, from the very moment she meets him, she's quite wary of him. I think she picks up that there's something not quite right about this guy. However, that kind of subsides because, as you can probably tell from watching the trailer, she is kind of into him, and she starts falling for him, and you kind of know where this is gonna go. And yeah, she invites him to this, or her mother, she's going to go to this party, and her mother says to her, why don't you take David with you? He seems, he might, there'll be a chance for him to meet some new people, a chance for him to enjoy himself. And she says, fine. They go to the party, and they get closer, they get even closer while they're there. This is where she starts to become really infatuated with him. And when they're on the drive home from the party, David's talking about the music she's listening to on the radio, and she, you can really tell that she's so into him at this point, because she even says, it's just a mix that I put together. If you want, I'll do you a copy. And then he says, that'll be nice. So when they get home, that's the first thing she goes and does. Now, the following morning, she wakes up early, and she's got the disc with her, and she goes into the kitchen to see if David's there. Now, this is where where the twist comes in, because while she's in the kitchen, she hears David outside on the phone, and it's like a suspicious phone call. He's on a phone to this doctor wanting to make an appointment, and it sounds as though he's talking about changing his appearance. So immediately, the sister twigs that there's something wrong, because obviously she was wary of him from the beginning, and obviously it's in that even though she's became infatuated with him, that wariness is still there. And then so as soon as she hears this, she's going to follow up on this right away. So, and then culminated with that, more and more strange things have been happening. Like the dad, he was wanting this promotion at work, and this other guy got it, and then this other guy and his wife turn up dead. So there's that. you know, suspicious things happening. And also we have this scene where David goes and meets up with a couple of guys he was introduced to at the party because he wanted to buy a firearm. And they have this meeting in like this, abandoned. It's kind of a place, it's out of the way. If you want, it's the kind of place you'd go and have these sort of dealings with. There is no one around. So he goes and meets them, and he is presented with all these weapons, and he says, "You know what? I'll take them all." And the guys say to him, "All right, if you've got the money for all these guns, you can have them." Then things get really, really dark, right? Because he says, "No, I'm not paying for them. I'm going to kill you." Honestly, that's exactly what happened. He said, "No, I'm going to kill you." And that might seem a bit, but the way it is on screen, and because the actor playing the part of David is so good, and is, even though he's likable, he is he's really cold. He, like you say, he will kill you. So it doesn't fall flat at all. You buy this, this when he says, "I'm not going to pay for it. I'm going to kill you." That line delivery is immense, because honestly, it does make the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. Sorry to use that cliche, but it does. You get a chill, because you think, oh my god, So yeah, he kills both these guys flat out, and that's, sorry to go off point, but that's the thing. You can tell this movie is R-rated, because when people get shot in this movie, they get shot. Blood explodes out of people when they get shot, and it looked as though they did this practically. They didn't use CGI blood, they used the good old blood packets and stuff like that. But, they weren't afraid to spray blood on the camera.